Good evening, everyone. This is Sumitra from Department of Biotech CBIT. I consider it a great honor for me to introduce the speaker for this session, Dr. Nripendra Vikram Singh. Sir is currently working as Senior Scientist at National Research Center on Pomegranate, ICAR, since February 2018 till date. Well, Sir has worked as scientist at National Academy for Agricultural Research Management, ICAR, Hyderabad. Talking about Sir's educational qualifications, Sir has won a gold medal in BSc Agriculture from BHU Varanasi. Sir has completed his PhD from Discipline of Fruits and Horticulture Technology, Division of Horticulture, IARI, New Delhi, India. Well, there are most significant research achievements and allied activities of SIRS, which includes publications, more than 150 research papers, books, manual, bulletins, book chapters, abstracts. SIR has identified 3 linked markers for fruit weight, titrable acidity, and bacterial blight severity. SIR carried out whole genome sequencing and de novo assembly of pomegranate. Sir has been involved in breeding and institute level release of 2 pomegranate varieties, namely Solapur Lal, a biofortified variety of pomegranate, and Solapur Anardana for table and processing purpose respectively. Sir was involved in the demonstration of a model pomegranate production practices for effective management of bacterial blight. Well, there are many awards and recognition which was received by Sir, out of which the first one is Young Scientist Award 2017 by the Society for Advancement of Research in Pomegranate for the outstanding contribution in the field of pomegranate. He also received Krishi Kranti Award 2016 by RK Foundation, Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. Sir was selected for NAIP Fellowship in the field of marker assisted selection and trained at WVSU, USA. Sir was elected as General Secretary of the Society for Advancement of Research on Pomegranate, Solapur. Sir has secured All India First Rank for JRF Fellowship Examination 2003 conducted by ICAR and SRF Examination 2005 conducted by IARI in Horticulture and Fruit Science respectively. Sir received many best awards, be it presentation or poster awards, for the various participations that he's done along his career. Sir, indeed, it's a great honor for us to have you on this webinar. Dear participants, it's a rare opportunity that we get to listen to the words of this legendary person. Firstly, thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation, and I request you to begin the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Sumitra, for such a nice introduction. And good evening to staff and faculty of Chaitanya Bharati Institute of Technology, my fellow eminent speakers, students, and participants of this webinar. I am NV Singh, working for last 10 years at this institute of national importance, which is National Research Center on Pomegranate. This institute got established in 2005, and since then we are working on different aspects of pomegranate. And let me inform you, this is the only institution in the world which is exclusively working on pomegranate. This ICAR NRCP comes under the aegis of Indian Council of Agricultural Research, which is part of Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India. So I would also like to thank Dr. Arun, who has given me this opportunity to participate in this webinar and interact with, present my experience with on tissue culture and my experience on pomegranate cultivation and different utility of pomegranate. And I have been assigned the topic application of plant tissue culture in pomegranate with a special reference to micropropagation. My entire presentation will be dealing with basic concept of plant tissue culture. I would also like to throw some light on the pomegranate revolution in India, why micropropagation is very important for pomegranate. Then I will deal with some applications of plant tissue culture, which can be equally valid for pomegranate also. And at last, I would not like to miss this opportunity to inform this learned audience about ICR National Research Center on pomegranate, what research activities, what developmental activities, and how we are contributing to improve the livelihood and nutritional security of different stakeholders of pomegranate industry. So, plant tissue culture can be rightly defined as the aseptic culturing of cell, tissue, organ, and their components under defined physical and chemical conditions. Means we have to provide such a physical and chemical conditions which is favorable for the growth of cells, tissue, organ, or whatever we want to culture. Physical condition means light, humidity, temperature. There are so many other factors also. And in chemical, the basal media, the growth regulators, additives, and there are certain intricacies also which I will discuss in the coming slides. So, the whole concept of plant tissue culture, it was first visioned by the great scientist who is also sometimes regarded as father of plant tissue culture, Haberland, who gave the concept of totipotency in 1902, well ahead of culturing of any cell. So at that time itself, he had a vision that culturing of cell or tissue can be done, and from that tissue, entire organism, entire plant can be made. So if we talk about plant tissue culture, particularly with view of micropropagation, it can be done by two means. One is indirect regeneration, where we take a specialized cell, then we de-differentiate it, make it simple, make it a mass of undifferentiated parenchymatous cell, which is known as callus, and then callus is re-differentiated into somatic embryos or into different organs through organogenesis. So for both de-differentiation and re-differentiation, we provide a particular kind of physical and chemical environment which is favorable for the growth of the plant. And that is the art and science of tissue culture. You have to find out which is the best physical condition, what are best chemical conditions for the growth of plants. And the second method is direct regeneration. When your explant is nothing but an initial material which you culture on a defined media, whether media some media are non-defined also, on a culture media to get a desired organ or entire plant. So it's an initial material. Explant is the initial material which we excise from the mother plant. So if an explant is already having a growing point, a meristem, it can be directly cultured without producing callus. Those explants are like nodal segments, axillary buds, shoot tips. You can clearly see here that we have taken a leaf tissue and we have provided a particular set of physical and chemical condition where the specialized leaf tissue got converted into undifferentiated mass, it got simplified, and they form callus, and that callus is again re-differentiated into various kind of organs, or it can be re-differentiated into somatic embryos. I will discuss what are somatic embryos later on in my presentation. Now this is direct organogenesis, where we take a growing point. For example, here we have taken meristem or shoot tip or nodal segment, where without producing callus, we can get the organogenesis. That's why it is called as direct route. For callusing, during a previous presentation, I missed that. For callusing, mostly auxins like 2,4-D is used to induce callus. So the plant tissue culture is interplay of your physical conditions like temperature, light, humidity, your basal media, which basal media you need to choose, whether it will be high salt media, whether it is low salt media like WPM, whether we need to add some non-defined components like coconut water, and what kind of growth hormone or growth regulator and at what dose. So this is the plant tissue culture is interplay of all these components. So this is the model for coffee culturing through somatic embryogenesis. I have taken this slide from Google, and it has been reported by Ateni and her co-worker in 2018, and that it got published in Frontiers in Plant Sciences. Here, the leaf tissues have been taken. Then it was provided with a particular set of chemical and physical condition, right media, right growth regulator combination. Then it formed an embryogenic callus. This embryogenic callus can be used to induce embryogenesis. So there are different stages of embryogenesis. You can see here globular stage, heart stage, torpedo, and last cotyledonary stage. Then these cotyledonary embryos were put to bioreactors. Bioreactors are nothing but equipments or facilities uh, which provide a particular set of physical and chemical condition and support the biological process, supports the proliferation, supports the multiplication. So it is the equipment which supports the plant tissue culture. Bioreactors can be used for industrial purposes where we have to go for multiplication in bulk. So these are the different stages of micropropagation. Initially, Murasik, we all know MS Media, Murasik School Media. In 1974, they, they found three stages are very critical for micropropagation. One is culture establishment, second is multiplication of seed, and third is in vitro rooting. But later on, Debberg and Mane in 1981 found that two more stages are required. One is explant pretreatment, and another one after rooting is acclimatization or hardening phase. So they have not altered the sequences, but rather they put zero ahead of one, and the last stage they have given stage 4. But what I personally feel after working uh, for 18 years, 10 years of my service and 8 years of my MSc and PhD, there must be one more stage ahead of explant treatment, which should be maintenance of mother plant. If you maintain your mother plant under protected structure, under controlled condition, then there will be less inoculum load, there will be better culture establishment, there will be less problem of phenolic browning. So maintenance of mother plant should also be a critical step in getting a successful protocol for micropropagation. These are various steps. We take explant, we give various pre-treatments, disinfestation, surface sterilization, then we culture it on media, then we go for subculturing, then we go for proliferation, rooting, and then in vitro hardening. Most of the commercial tissue culture firms, they don't do in vitro hardening. They immediately put the rooted plantlets to low tunnel polyhouses with or mist chambers having almost 100% humidity. And then after that, there is secondary hardening, which is usually done in shade net houses. At the secondary hardening stage, if we use the plant beneficial microbes, because at that time there is very less pathogenic interaction between the plantlet, which came from the laboratory, and other microbes. So these beneficial microbes get a very good opportunity to establish themselves in the rhizosphere of the plant or even inside the plant, like endomycorrhiza. So I will discuss that later on during when we describe when I will deal with biohardening or biopriming. So these are the various perquisites which I have already discussed, which are required for successful in vitro propagation. Now, I think you all have got the idea of basic plant tissue culture. Now, I would like to throw some light on Kumgens. because my topic basically has some keywords. One is pomegranate, one is market progression, and of course, after that, I will do something. I will discuss. I will let you guys know what kind of research ICR National Research Center on Pomegranate is doing. So these are the major varieties of pomegranates grown all across the globe. We all know that right now India is at numero uno position as far as acreage or pomegranate production is concerned. Our closest rival is Iran, and the Savi is one of the varieties of Iran. Then Spain in Europe, the Molar, Grenada, Molar de Iche. Then from China, China is also a good competitor. I think right now China is lying at second position after India, though China doesn't reveal most of its data. So, based on the literature we collected, we came to that conclusion that China might be the second or a third position as far as pomegranate cultivation of acreage is concerned. Now, this wonderful variety is a landmark variety for pomegranate, which is almost 300 years old. It got originated in USA, and from US it reached to most part of the world. And this is the most prevalent variety in the entire globe. But in India, the Bhagwa is the leader. The 80% of area under pomegranate right now is under Bhagwa, and it is one of the choicest variety of not only India but in the entire globe. So we are exporting around 2% of our produce. So 67,000 tons of metric tons of Bhagwa is exported every year, and we produce around 30 lakh tons of pomegranate, and 80% of it is Bhagwa, rather more than 80%. So Bhagwa, it's a cross between Ganesh, which was our primitive earlier variety, first commercial variety in 1936. It was released as GBZ1, but the only drawback with that variety was it was not having deep red ruby color, which is the key, which is one of the most important economic character as far as marketing of pomegranate is concerned, as far as nutritional value is concerned. So the breeders have introduced some varieties from Russia, and one of them was Gulesha Red, and they crossed Ganesh with Gulesha Red. Gulesha Red was basically involved as one of the parents for color, for deep red color, and at the after breeding started in 1970s and 80s, and at the end of this century or somewhere around 2004, we come out with a variety called Bhagwa, and now Bhagwa is ruling the entire Indian pomegranate industry. We all know that pomegranate is a superfood. As many as 153 important phytochemicals has been reported from pomegranate, which treats an array of human diseases, right from cancer, prostate cancer, diabetes, diabetic nephropathy. It is having antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral effects. But the pomegranate is not only popular for these reasons. Pomegranate is one of that crop which is having very versatile adaptability. Though it is having temperate in origin, but it is adapted well to tropical, subtropical, and semi-arid conditions. It can be grown in areas which are receiving less rainfall. It is comparatively, we can say, less water requiring commercial crop. Besides that, it can be grown on suboptimal edaphic condition, soils having high pH. So it can be considered as one of the strategic crop which has huge potential to bring barren land into cultivation. We can see the strategic advantage of India as far as pomegranate production is concerned as compared to other countries. In India, fresh pomegranate can be made available throughout the year. So we can tap the global market. Our closest rival is Spain, and the Spain production, it's very meager in front of India. India produces around 45 to 50% of the global production, which lies global production is around 60 lakh tons, and India produces annually 30 lakh tons. And our pomegranate is available throughout the year. So we have huge potentiality in processing, in value addition, and in export. Right now, we export just 2% of our total produce, and we command around 14% of the global export market of pomegranate, though it is led by China and Iran. So these are the major states where pomegranate is grown. Maharashtra is number one, around 60% to 70% area and production comes from Maharashtra. Now Gujarat is coming very fast. Few years back, Gujarat was nowhere in the pomegranate map of India, but right now Gujarat has surpassed Karnataka, which was long placed at second position after Maharashtra. So Gujarat is coming very fast. Then in Himachal Pradesh, if you go to Kullu region, you will find pomegranate in every house. There are huge orchards of pomegranate. Because of climate change, the apple is shifting to higher elevations, and valleys and lower hills have been now occupied by this pomegranate, and they have Kandhari seedlets, which are very big, bold seeded varieties. Even northeastern area, some parts of Andhra Pradesh, Nagaland, they are coming very nicely for as far as pomegranate cultivation is concerned, and there is huge scope of organic pomegranate cultivation there in northeast, which can increase the export potential of Indian pomegranate. Besides that, the pomegranate of Sholapur region is having geographical indication. It's having GI tag. So anywhere, if pomegranate of Solapur reaches, it has a separate market. It has its value because of its GI tag. Everybody knows that if pomegranate is from Solapur, its quality will be better as compared to pomegranate grown in other parts of the world. Now you can see here the benefit cost ratio. Why pomegranate is one of the choicest food in the semi-arid climate. The benefit cost ratio is 1 is to 2.5, and you can see most of the other fruit and cereal crops cannot give this BC ratio. And mind you, this is the conservative figure. We have seen benefit cost ratio even 1 is to 4. So pomegranate is one of the most profitable crop for areas which are having suboptimal edaphic condition, having less rainfall, and pomegranate has played a major role in improving livelihood and nutritional security of farmer, and it has huge potential to increase the farmer's income, and rather not only double the farmer income, but it can increase many folds. So pomegranate is one of those crops which is not only having export demand, but it is also having very good domestic market because of its nutraceutical and therapeutic values. You can clearly see here during last 1 decade or 8 years, pomegranate has registered huge growth in acreage, production, productivity, as well as export. You can see we have achieved more than 130% growth in area, 400% growth in production, which is huge. No other crop in India, particularly food crop, has made such a tremendous growth during last 1 decade. Even productivity has registered about 80% growth. And you can see the global scenario. The FAO database, the stats of pomegranate is not available. We have collected this data from different sources, and this is a rough estimate. So right now it's actually not 2.34 lakh hectare for India. Right now it's a 2.62 lakh hectare. So you can see we command over 50% of the total global area under pomegranate. And our production right now is it's not 28 lakh. It's right now it's as per advanced estimate of 2019, it's around 30 lakh tons, and we produce around 45% of the global total production. This is the export growth of pomegranate during last 1.5 decade. So you have seen the growth and area expansion under pomegranate. To meet that area expansion, if you take the average of last 7 to 8 years, there is annual average area expansion of 17,500 hectare. To plant this much area at the rate of 740 plants per hectare, we need around 11 million healthy planting material. Our traditional or conventional nursery or propagation methods could not able to meet this demand. Though they can produce this much of planting material, but one more condition is that the plant should be healthy, because during recent 1 decade there is one disease called pomegranate bacterial blight, which is caused by Xanthomonas xenopodis pathovar punici, and it has created havoc. It has almost devastated pomegranate cultivation and negatively impacted it. Though later on we came out with a integrated disease and pest management schedule to contain this disease. Now the situation is under control, but still right now also we don't have any foolproof solution for this bacterial blight. We are still working on that. But why this bacterial blight has taken this much of scale? Earlier, it was just in a small pocket of Maharashtra and Karnataka, but through infected planting material, because this is a non-systemic disease and latent infection cannot be checked because of sampling errors. So, through infected planting material, this disease has reached to different parts of the country where it has not been reported earlier. So the foremost criteria should be there that only the in vitro propagated or micropropagated plants which are blight free should be supplied to new areas of cultivation.
Sir,
Yeah,
please click on that hide button, sir.
pardon?
On the screen, there is stop sharing and hide button, no?
Yeah,
Click on that hide button. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Carry on, sir.
Okay, okay. So now again coming back to the issues of micropropagation in pomegranate. See, in vitro propagation in woody plants may not be as easy as herbaceous plants like banana. Basically, when we use woody plant or explant, which is from uh, trees, there is issue of phenolic browning. Phenol, it gets photooxidized. Basically, phenol is a phytoalexin, which is secreted by the plant uh, for its defense. So when we culture the explant, and if the explant is woody, it secretes a lot of phenol, and phenol gets photooxidized and it produces quinone, which leads to necrosis of the explant. So the first and foremost criteria to establish a successful protocol is to effectively tackle the phenol exudation from the explant. So there are different methods we use to agitate the explant in different type of antioxidants. We add antioxidants in the media. We use different absorbing agents like activated charcoal, like PVP. Besides that, if your mother plant is under protected structure, under controlled environment, and if there is not too much of heat stress, the phenol production from those kind of explants will be comparatively lesser as compared to if mother plant is under field condition and explant has taken from those plants. Then we also sometimes add sterile water over the media because phenol is water soluble. It get dissolved in that sterile water and later on we can shift the explant. So there will be lesser damage because of phenolic browning. Then we can seal. We also follow a strategy where we seal the cut end of the explant with paraffin wax, sterile paraffin wax. But only issue with this is that growth of the explant is comparatively lesser, so it takes more number of days for establishment of culture. Then liquid media is also used and recommended for minimizing the negative effect of phenol, even keeping the cultures in dark for initial days so that phenol should not get photooxidized and uh, cause the necrosis of the explant. So these are the different strategies, and several more strategies are there. So what I wanted to convey here, if you want to go for micropropagation of woody plants, then you need to tackle the phenolic exudation. Means culture establishment is very critical for that. So you can see the explant necrosis because of phenolic browning. And once the plants get established uh, up to 30 days without any infection, then we say that now your culture is established and it can be shifted for multiplication. So we go for several cycles of multiplication. We have to optimize number of cycles. We have to optimize the growth regulator concentration. We have to optimize the media because universally MS Miracex 2 media is used for establishment and multiplication. But high salt media like MS media, there are reports that it's not so favorable for woody plants. Rather, low salt media it reduces the phenol oxidation and may be more suitable. So here you have to do a lot of modification. You have to reduce the salt concentration if you want to use the MS media, or you can try WPM media. Then if you want to go for shooting, there must be high cytokinin to oxygen ratio. Then we add lot of media supplements. We add lot of hormonal supplements like adenine sulfate. We add like casein hydrolysate. So a lot of new media additives have been introduced in tissue culture, and you have to plan your experiments systematically. taking into consideration the media, different type of media, the growth regulator, auxin, cytokinin, the hormonal supplements like adenine sulfate, other media additives like PVP and amino acids. So after a few cycles of multiplication, and that also you have to optimize, because more cycles of multiplication at higher hormonal concentration may also lead to somatoform variations, and most of the somatoform variations are not desirable. Though, if you talk about from the variation point of view, sometimes somatoform variations have also been exploited for getting some resistant lines, particularly resistance to herbicide and some pathogens. Then after in vitro routing for commercial tissue culture farm, they used to get the plants used to get shifted to low tunnel poly houses or mist chamber with high humidity. So for initial 1 month to 45 days, it used to be kept under high humidity condition, because these plants have rooted, but these roots have not developed proper vascular connection with the entire plant system. The leaf stomata are always open. The leaves don't have cuticle. So if you don't provide a high moisture condition, the plant will immediately wilt. These plants even cannot carry out, they are even not sustainable for their photosynthesis. They are photomixotrophic. So initially you have to keep those plants at high moisture condition so as to avoid the wilting of those plants. Then after that, these are the various combinations that you can try. These wonderful varieties of pomegranate. Then after that, we go for secondary hardening. So at the secondary hardening stage, if we incorporate some plant beneficial microbes, that process is called biohardening. But biohardening and biopriming, it has been used by different authors, different researchers, where even they have incorporated this plant beneficial microbe even under at the stage of in vitro rooting also. So basic concept here is that we for biohardening, we are utilizing the plant beneficial microbe at the hardening stage. So instead of primary hardening, we introduce these plant beneficial microbes at the secondary hardening stage. These are the photograph of root cortex of pomegranate. You see how beautifully this arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, which was earlier known as vesicular arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, VAM, has been established in the root cortex of these plants. So the mycorrhiza of this worm acts as root hair. It increases the soil exploration capacity of plant to the tune of 100 times, and even the nutrient uptake capacity of the plant to the tune of 80 times. These are published literatures. And these mycorrhiza, these plant beneficial microbes, they work more effectively under deficient soils, under challenging environmental and climatic and edaphic conditions. You can clearly see here we have used this AMF, arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. And among that, we use Glomus intraradices. Along with that, we have used one more plant beneficial microbe, that is Aspergillus niger, strain AN27. And you can clearly see even RLW, little d photo content, photosynthesis, and total phenolic content of the biohardened plant. It was better as compared to control. The same was the effect for chlorophyll, total chlorophyll content. To explore more and more microbes, because future of agriculture lies with the exploration of microbes. You see that single microbe, that virus COVID-19, it has created such a havoc. So if we can tap the beneficial microbe, it can also has the ability to change the face of Indian agriculture. So here we have exploited some endophyte, and we have isolated those endophytes from the pomegranate plants, as well as in vitro raised pomegranate explants. Then we have isolated, identified, and evaluated their impact. So here we have evaluated their in vitro and in vivo impact on ZAP containment, on reduction, on their effect on reducing the ZAP. So they can be used as alternative strategy to chemicals for containing bacterial blight. Besides that, these endophytes are also helpful in solubilizing potash and phosphate. We have also seen their potash and phosphate solubilizing ability. So they can also be used as biofertilizers. So we are now at the stage of evaluating these endophytes, and certainly we are in the process of developing a consortium which can be exploited as biohardening agent in future. So we have identified, we have used the 16S RNA technology, and we have submitted their sequence to NCBI. and you can see the bacteriostatic and bactericidal effect of these endophytes here. Now, the virus indexing and fidelity testing are also part of plant tissue culture. So we have to use robust marker. We can also use markers which scans the whole genome, like RAPD. We can also use trait-specific robust SSR markers. We can develop variety-specific private SNPs. So these can be utilized for even methylation-specific markers. For example, in banana, they have been used. So these a set of robust markers can be utilized for fidelity testing of in vitro raised planting material, so that if any undesirable sumaculum variant is there which can negatively affect the trait of economic importance, can be eliminated at the initial stage itself before distributing the plants to the farmers. Similarly, virus indexing is also compulsory, but in pomegranate, none of the virus has been reported to cause economical damage. So in pomegranate, bacterial blight is there. So virus indexing is mandatory for banana and for citrus and other fruit crops, but virus indexing right now it's not mandatory for pomegranate. DBT guidelines for pomegranate macropropagation has not yet been published. It is in the process. The framework is in the process, so it will take some time to come out. So NCS TCP is working on that. We are also part of that team. So we have standardized and commercialized this propagation protocol, and it got appreciated from our parent organization. Then it was included in the silent achievements for 2015 and 14 as well. Then we have published some good publication on biohardening, where we have utilized plant beneficial microbes to improve the performance of in vitro raised or micropropagated plants. Now coming to the other applications of plant tissue culture, we all know that if we are exploiting micropropagation or plant tissue culture for propagation purpose, we can produce disease-free true to the type planting material in bulk. But if you consider the case of pomegranate, we need around 11 million planting material every year. This 11 million planting material can be made by maintaining 100 to 1000 mother plant in protected structure, which is so easy. If 4 or 5 good tissue culture firms which have the capacity of producing around 20 lakh plant annually, they can even suffice the need for entire country. But if you go by conventional nurseries, more than 150 nurseries are required for that. So maintenance of mother plant is here, quality control is better. So in India, the plant tissue culture, the most important application of plant tissue culture is micropropagation, where we produce disease-free to the type planting material. Whether the largest producer of micropropagated banana in the world is from India, the Jain Irrigation Private Limited, which produces next number of micropropagated plants throughout the globe. Then by means of tissue culture technique, we can it's feasible to make distant hybridization. For example, in grapes, if we hybridize two distant individuals, what happens at later stages, embryo get aborted. But if after fertilization at initial stage itself, if we can rescue that embryo and grow it or grow artificially on media under in vitro condition, then that embryo can be rescued and plant can be made from that. So in grapes, the plant tissue culture technique has made possible the development of distant hybrids. Then germplasm maintenance exchange is also one of the applications of plant tissue culture. Now, many of the countries who wish to exchange germplasm, they are asking for in vitro exchange of various planting material, so that only the germplasm of interest should cross the border, not the pathogens. So in vitro mutation is also one of the applications of plant tissue culture. Sumaculum variation is also one of the means, though most of the time it's undesirable, but it has also been exploited for creating variations. And I will discuss a list of various lines which has been found resistant to various fungi, pathogens, and these weedicides. I will discuss it later. That in vitro screening for abiotic and salt tolerance, if we go for if you use tissue culture technique, the duration can be shortened. Then we can develop haploids, polyploids, we can go for protoplast fusion. We can exploit um, cytoplasmic genes through hybrid production, which is very much possible by using these plant tissue culture techniques. Then molecular farming is one of such branches of plant tissue culture, which is coming very fast in pharmaceutical industries. Even edible vaccines have been produced using molecular farming. Even the purest form of chemicals, by using the tissues which are involved in production of that chemical, has been used through molecular farming. And this basically application is with pharmaceutical industry. And these are the list of various pharmacopoeial variants which have been identified and found resistant to some of the pathogens or toxins. These are the steps involved in molecular farming for the production of even edible vaccines. These are the various crops, high value crops, where plant tissue culture has been commercially exploited. So there are two important things for making a commercial and viable tissue culture protocol. First, the plant you choose should be of high value crop, or the planting material should be required regularly, or the plant should produce less number of vegetative saplings. For example, date palm. In the entire life cycle of date palm, it can only produce around 16 to 20 suckers. So there is no way out, but we have to multiply the plant through micropropagation. And the plant of date palm, it costs around more than 1,000 rupees, the tissue culture based plant. So these are either high value crop, or crops where regular planting material is required, or crops which produce very less saplings if propagated vegetatively. So the solution for these issues lies with the plant tissue culture. Now, after discussing plant tissue culture, micropropagation, and about pomegranate, now I would like to brief the audience about the research activities of ICAR-NRCP. We have standardized and commercialized effective micropropagation protocol, and our share right now in the market is around 7.5 lakh saplings. We have produced this much of sapling, of course, in public-private partnership mode. Our technology partner HCW has been involved in that. So in last 4 years, we have produced around 7.5 lakh micropropagated biohardened planting material, which will be very helpful in avoiding the spread of diseases through infected planting material. Then we have developed an integrated disease and pest management schedule. As I have already told, that bacterial blight is deadly disease in pomegranate. Even ICR has announced a challenge award. If anybody can give a concrete solution for bacterial blight, he can be awarded rupees 10 lakh along with all the certificates and appreciation. So we are working on that in phase-wise manner. We have developed a protocol for disease-free planting material production. Then we have developed and scheduled by using which we can produce economic yield and reduce the bacterial blight infestation, because before adoption, the bacterial blight severity was around 80%, and you can see we have harvested around 8 to 16 tons of produce from different orchards. These are the various processed products. Our concept of processing lies on the total utilization of food. We don't want to throw away anything, whether it's a seed, whether it's a grain, whether the fruit is damaged. So our concept here is the best quality of food should go to the export market or domestic market. It should get a premier price, but the produce, because we are producing around 30 lakh tons of pomegranate annually, and out of which around 20% of the total produce, it is used to be sold by farmers at throwaway price, or even farmers don't get even any price, or even they cannot get even their margin of transport by selling those fruits. So they even throw those fruits outside the orchard. So our focus here is that we utilize those fruits, to process those fruits, and how we can add value to those fruits which farmers are selling at throwaway price. So, among the achievements in breeding and biotechnology, our field gene bank is fourth largest in the world. We have a collection of around 380 wild and cultivated and exotic germplasms from 13 countries. We have developed and released 2 hybrids, one of which is biofortified. We have also sequenced the whole genome of pomegranate, and the quality of our genome is far better than the genome reported by the Chinese group. We have deciphered around 346 MB out of 352 MB of genome, and our genome is gold standard, and we have used latest platform. Along with Illumina, we have used PacBio, we have done HiC, we used BioNano, and we have also done 10x optical mapping as well as 10x genomics. We have also generated transcriptome data from different tissues of pomegranate. We have developed a huge wealth of EST, hypervariable, SNP markers for which can be utilized for top pomegranate improvement. We have also carried out fluorocast genome sequence to find out the gene of interest present in the cytoplasm. Then we have carried out genotyping by sequencing of 192 genotypes to have marker discovery and link those markers with traits of economic importance. This is our released biofortified variety Solapur Lal. You can see iron is almost double as compared to Bhagwa, and zinc is around 20% higher than Bhagwa. This Solapur Lal is having better yield as compared to Bhagwa, but only thing is that size is smaller and seed is hard. These are the various processed products we developed from pomegranate juice, RTS, ready to serve drink, then minimal processed dairy. There is huge market of minimal processed dairy from India to Europe. Netherlands is largest buyer because there is no issue of pesticide residue and all those things, and even the slightly spot fruits having wind spots can be used, because here only aerials you have to pack it in punnets and export it to European market. But only thing is that you have to maintain a cold chain condition and be produced to reach to the European market within 2 to 3 days. That's why it cannot be shipped. It is generally sent through air route. Now, if your pomegranate is not to the standard quality, it is having some spots, slightly rotten, then if you cannot even extract juice also, then you can dry the seeds and extract seed oil from that. And there is machine called cold press. By using that machine, you can extract a virgin pomegranate seed oil with all qualities intact. This is high value product from pomegranate, and you can see, you can check it on Amazon. The price of 1 liter of seed oil is around somewhere around 20 to 30,000 rupees a liter. And after extraction of this seed oil, whatever cake is left, we can use that cake and substitute the wheat flour with that cake powder, and we can make dietary fiber rich cookies. See what Britannia is selling nowadays on they are just selling the dietary fiber rich cookies. So why not to utilize the pomegranate seed cake? This pomegranate seed oil is having that I will discuss later on. It is having anti-cancer properties. It is very good against anti-aging. It's a full of antioxidant, and it is very good for heart also. Most of the major cosmetic companies like Olay, like Granada, they use pomegranate serum and oil in their creams, face lifting creams. Rin powder can be used for treating so many various ailments. Besides that, it can also be used to extract dyes, natural dye. And we have done that research in collaboration with Sircot, and we have found that color fastness of color extracted from this rin is as good as Bixia which has been commercially utilized for extraction of natural dyes. We have also signed MOU with Dental College, where they have found that this rin powder decoction is having very good effect on curbing the bad breath causing bacteria. So these are as good as Colgate and Listerine mouth washes. But only thing is that because of high phenol, there is teeth yelling. So they are sorting out that issue also. You can clearly see here this study we have done in collaboration, because we are having one ICE ministry project and CSR, Indian Institute of Chemical Biology, the Department of Cancer was one of the collaborator of that. So we carried out this study, and we found that this pomegranate seed oil is very, very effective in treating the colon cancer. And we proved it on urine model, and that paper got published. Then the wine, we feel wine as taboo, but wine is basically, we are going to promote this wine as Pom Amrit, because after fermentation, the wine is having melatonin, which is very good medicine for treating insomnia or sleeplessness, and it get naturally produced inside in the fermented juice of pomegranate. So this pomegranate wine is highly priced. If you go to Turkey or other European country, you have to shell out about 10,000 rupees for a liter of pomegranate wine. Then anardana is traditionally used as acidulant and in Indian cuisine, particularly for chole bhature, and you have to shell out around 600 rupees for 1 kg of anardana. It is substitute for tomato or imli in North India for making chole bhature. And lot of Iranian cuisine, they use anardana for acidulant. Probably you have also heard about Dabur Anardana as a digestive also. So this is the entire value chain, how we can we can utilize the fruits which farmers sell at throwaway price, or even farmer they throw those fruits outside the orchard. So those fruits are our target. If the fruit is not damaged from inside, we can make juice, and from the seed we can extract oil. After extracting juice and seed, the seed cake can be used for making cookies. Even the whole seed can be used for making mouth freshener, and the best quality we have to export. Even if the if this fruit is rotting from inside, this rind can be dried. It can be used for making peel powder, which can be used for extracting natural dyes, which can be used for making organic mouthwash. So this is the entire value chain, and all these products have been developed by ICNRCP and commercialized. We have commercialized to various companies, and some of them are commercially producing these products. We have also did this experiment in collaboration with IICB, Department of Cancer, where we have developed pomegranate peel powder-based gold nano formulation for tackling diabetic nephropathy. Because in diabetes, the kidney is the first organ which get affected. So these peel extracts are very effective in tackling that diabetic nephropathy, and we have proved, we have done anatomical studies also, and this paper got published in International Journal of Nanomedicine. And you can see the impact of ICI and RCT. We have touched almost all the states of the country, either through our planting material or through capacity building, training, or through information, or through providing information on pomegranate cultivation. So you can see the progress of pomegranate also. During last 1 decade, pomegranate has grown leap and bound in India. And what I feel NRCP is one of the key component in pushing pomegranate to this limit. We have also carried out the soil suitability mapping for 15 states in collaboration with National Bureau of Soil Survey and Land Use Planning. We use soil and climate data, and you can see the green part of this Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, which are highly suitable for pomegranate cultivation. Then in Gujarat also, Gujarat, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, also we mapped, and all these dark green areas are highly suitable for pomegranate. And in Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, there is not much pomegranate, but we, in our soil suitability mapping, we found that these two states have very good potential for pomegranate cultivation. These are different facilities which we are having, and you all are welcome who wish to work on pomegranate. They are welcome to our institute. We can collaborate, we can work jointly, and certainly we can serve to our farmers, pomegranate farmers, because all these achievements, what we could able to make or India could able to make as far as pomegranate is concerned, the major contribution comes from farmers. So we have automatic fertigation system, then well-developed farm, polyhouses, and we have also developed a mobile application, Solapur Anar, in 6 languages. A multi-language mobile application has been downloaded by more than 25,000. This is 1 year old data, 20,000. And Google has given it very good rating. These are the technologies which we have licensed, and we have generated a lot of revenues out of that. And this is also natural bonsai nana, and the worth of this plant is 2,000 rupees. We have commercialized this also, and we have given to some nurseries in Bangalore and in Maharashtra also. So with this, I thank CBIT and all the audience, and my email ID and mobile number is with Dr. Arun. Anybody who is interested in pomegranate research is most welcome. He can contact me, he can come to our center, and whatever best and we can do or we can collaborate, we will certainly be very interested in that. Thank you so much and good night.
Now it's time to thank our speaker. So, thank you very much, sir, for sharing your profound knowledge with us. Your session was full of zeal and valuable information. And the words of wisdom will echo in our minds for a very long time to come, sir. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and experiences, and it'll be a great pleasure for us to listen to you again in our future events, sir. Thank you very much.